There's two things in life, either happiness or suffering. And they cannot coexist at the same time in the body. What you choose in the moment is momentous freedom if you choose happiness. And by what I mean by happiness is the toughest choice for me was to keep a mentality of adventure and hope for something better rather than dwelling on the suffering. And it was a constant thing that I had in my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was born with it, but I think it was born out of the eagerness of not being stuck in that place. It was when I started my company, obviously nobody wanted to help me. I wouldn't say it's a mistake that I didn't do this, but because people wouldn't help me, I quit asking for help. Because one of the things that I always remember visualizing in the orphanage was I would see myself, think to myself that someday I'm gonna come out of here and be somebody that could potentially inspire millions of women and millions of people. So I think that to me was what really mattered the most. And even throughout my time with Salsa, I felt like it was just a stepping stone.
In other words, you always had an answer, or you always tried to find an answer to a problem you had, and you always found it.
Or you create the answer.
Or you create the answer yourself when you try it.
Yes, absolutely.
Because the energy you have, but it's not only that, it's what happened to you. You were always on the giving back.
Yes, I would give everything away that my caregiver would get mad at me because he would tell me, you shouldn't give away what I gave you. But it was just my nature.
But I asked myself, what were my resources? My resources weren't money. I didn't have money. They weren't people. My resources were within me. My resources were creativity, passion, and sticking to it. That's all I had. If you have those things, if you're passionate enough, if you're creative enough, if you stick to it enough, nothing can stop you. You figure out how to be different than everybody else, and if you can't figure it out, you create it. And that's really what propelled my business to success. Einstein said that the two most important days of your life is the day that you were born and the day that you find out why. When you find your why, your true why, is when really you start true success in your life. Because when you know your why, you start to get the passion, the sticking to it, the creativity that you need. If you hire people for what you do, they will work for you for the money, really. But if you hire people for the greater experience of why you do it, they will work for you for being part of that greater experience. Quick story.
So what I did was, the mentality that helped me in my business later on was that if anything that ever comes around that stops you, there's always a way if you're willing to figure it out. You know what? The rejection for me, it was a blessing. Because when somebody rejected me, I knew that they were exactly the right people I wanted to be a part of my life and my business. And I was attracting the right people, and that's how my business grew, to recognize that. And a lot of people think that, especially Latinos, that we are at a disadvantage, but we are at a disadvantage.